verse 10. James says, humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. Isn't that great? He will lift you up. Once self is removed, once self is replaced, God does the lifting. God does the restructuring. I like this quote of Charles Spurgeon. He said, sin comes up like Noah's flood, but grace rides over the tops of the mountains like the ark. Isn't that great? Because the ark is a picture. It's the Old Testament. Remember when we went through the ark? The Old Testament picture of God's grace. And sin can overwhelm. It's like a flood. It can overwhelm us, but God gives us that grace. Look at verse 12. Down there at verse 12, he says, there is one lawgiver who is able to save and to destroy. Who are you to judge another? It's our job. It's God's job. He is in charge. He is to be Lord, and that's where prayer, this prayer of surrender has to start, is we recognize. Now, if you're like me, sometimes you go to prayer, and you're praying throughout the day, and you're praying, and sometimes you feel like you kind of hit a wall of prayer, and you're like, where are we going? And it's like, you know how sometimes, even if you're in a conversation, maybe with your spouse, your kids, or somebody in your family, and you talk a lot, and sometimes you're like, I don't really know what else to say. I don't really know what else to talk about. You know, that can happen with God. That can happen with God. And there's always something that we need to be talking with God, relationship build. And the key, I think, to that is getting that prayer started when you feel like you've hit that prayer wall is surrender. And so I like to just go back to the tried and true. Start with praising God for who He is. Remember, prayer is downward before it's upward. I decrease. John says we must decrease that He might increase. And so I'm humbling. It's, Lord, you are God. You are the great I am. You are creator. You are sustainer. And, you know, sometimes I get so wrapped up in that, I just want to keep on going. God, you're first. You're last. You're King of Kings. Lord, you are everything. It turns into praise. It turns into praise. And I think it's a great place to start. There is one God, one way, and one hope. And when we humble ourselves and we start praying, begin our prayer with humbling ourselves, it strips us of